Good evening, folks. It is 10 p.m. Central Standard Time, Friday, impromptu. This is another episode of Beyond the Algorithm. I'm your host, Victor Vincent, Accountable Masculinity brand, where men mentor men. Accountable Masculinity University. Go follow it on YouTube. I know you guys already saw the link and what we're going to discuss here as it pertains to Shannon Sharpe and his recent situation with a sexually inappropriate event. And tonight's situation, although Shannon is the topic, so to speak, he's not the focus. The focus is on behavior. That's what I always like to focus on, period. The behavior is the most important thing because it determines how far we go or how low we go. Our outcomes, institutions are built off behavior. And, bottom line, we got to be careful about how we respond and how we react to things. So what I'm going to do is play this initial video from a content creator. Let's see who. Hype Mike Live. It's a content creator. And yeah, we're going to have a discussion about this and how poor sexual discipline distorts and negatively impacts the image of the black man. So without further ado, let's get busy.
I'm John Abba. The biggest entertainment story this week, without a doubt, has to be around Shannon Sharpe and a situation that has got everyone talking and chiming in with their own jokes, thoughts, and commentary. Now, D.L. Hughley, who has had his own run-ins with Shannon, would join in on the fun by taking his thoughts to social media site Threads to write, "Shannon better be glad that Shannon ain't interviewing Shannon on Club Shay Shay." This would be a clear diss towards Shannon's recent sexual assault accusations. As mentioned, this isn't the first time that Hughley has taken shots at Sharpe and his Club Shay Shay podcast. In the past, he's criticized the platform for causing harm to people he loves, and even going as far as calling Sharpe Wendy Williams with a weight set. Now, if you didn't know, just last year, while interviewing for Vlad TV, Hughley would state he'll never go on Club Shay Shay to give the host a viral moment. Regarding the controversial topics and beefs that are often brought up in Club Shay Shay interviews, Hughley would go on to say, "For me, it's a matter of principle. It is too messy. Now, think it's morphed into something else because I think that book has run dry. But for me, it's just all those people I saw on there were people who wanted to go on there because of what happened on Undisputed. The way Skip did him made me and a lot of other black people go, fuck this. We're going to make sure this brother's okay. For me, I would never do it. I was going to do it a long time ago. Honestly, before that happened, I had been slated to do it a couple different times. I just didn't. I'm glad he's making his money. I'm glad he's doing what he's doing. I'm not jealous or hateful. It's just a personal thing I wouldn't do. And people can say, why do you do Vlad and not him? I F with you. He don't need me anyway. And he was my favorite football player ever. He's my favorite tight end ever. Now, of course, Hughley was referring to the infamous Cat Williams interview, which has become the highest viewed interview in YouTube history, now sitting at 89 million views. Hughley clearly didn't like Cat calling out several of his peers, including Sexual Entertainer and Steve Harvey. Now, shortly after Cat's interview, Sharpe would invite Monique onto his platform, where she did a similar thing, reigniting her past beefs with Hughley, Tyler Perry, and Oprah Winfrey. Now, interestingly enough, as Sharpe's sexual assault allegations dominate mainstream media, words from both Cat Williams and Monique while they were on Club Shay Shay have recirculated. While Monique was a guest in February 2024, Sharpe would tell Monique that dating in today's world is different. Monique acknowledged Sharpe's comment by telling him she's grateful that she's not 56 and trying. She followed that up by directly telling Shannon he needs to take his old ass to somebody that loves him.
This dating thing, because it's Mo is different now than when you and I.
It's different, baby. I'm grateful I'm not 56 and trying.
You tried to say what you tried to say. Mo,
I'm looking right at you.
I know you looking at me.
I ain't backing down. You better take your old ass and get somebody to love you.
Damn, Mo.
Let me tell you what my baby need. He need him an old fat gal who can bake good cakes, make some smothered turkey wings, who gonna rub his feet at the nighttime. Oh, you don't need no 26-year-old girl. You don't need no 36-year-old girl.
I do.
This is your auntie talking to you. Take your your ass and get you an old bitch out there that can love you old. Trying to hang out with these young bitches and you can't do it, Shannon. You just can't do it.
Now, during Kat's interview with Shannon, he would warn Sharpe about the dangers of white women by mentioning what Jonathan Majors went through with his ex-girlfriend, Grace Jabari, who was also white.
I didn't want to get with a white woman because I was scared she might have me running down the street like Jonathan Majors.
There you go. See, come on, cat.
Not because I didn't like white women. I think white women are as great as any other women. But I'm not going to act like I'm not scared of them. I have a reason to be scared.
In addition, comedian Moho Brooks, along with many others, would also add their commentary by roasting Sharpe for his recent choice in women.
What is you doing, Unc? You ain't got no business out here with no 20-year-old white girl, with no 20-year-old period. You know, wrong with being no freak, but be a freak and it makes sense. You got this little ass girl sticking her tongue in your ass, your big football playing ass. That ass that play hella football, training camp, 2 a days, 4 seasons. Funky ass, what you think she was gonna do? She charging $25K a cheek, and it ain't no cheeks. No cheeks, and she ain't got no lips. She probably whistle when she talk. Damn, all these aunties out here. I know an auntie right now with all ass, all ass, 49. Got more dimples than a golf ball. You will love it over there. You should have knew as soon as she said put a big black baby in her what time it was. She don't even want the baby to grow. She want the baby to come out your side as soon as she have it. Damn, Unc.
So what do you guys think about D.L. Hughley's roasting and response to Shannon Sharpe? And what are your thoughts of the warnings Monique and Cat Williams gave him before this recent scandal? Let's talk about it more in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this story, you can always send us super thanks by hitting the button below. And you can tip us what you want.
All right. Shout out to the content creator that put that collage of videos together, because all of us have by this time seen every clip and thing that we can laugh and joke about. So I wanted to get the nuance out the way. What I want to talk about is how this situation impacts Black men specifically. And there's a bunch of different tiers to this. And the first thing I want to talk about is rule number 5, sexual discipline. You guys always know my content, and you know what I'm on. I don't play, and I'm very consistent about that. That's it at the bottom of the screen. That is the focus for tonight. It says, men must exercise sexual discipline to be seen as credible leaders and to maximize their opportunities. Okay. And the reason I identified that is because that's the number one thing that cuts us down every time. Have we not seen enough of R. Kelly, Bill Cosby, now Shannon, you know what I'm saying? And you name it. There's somebody else that I'm leaving out somewhere, but the fact that you can fill in the space with somebody else is, a testament to the fact that, that's how powerful rule number 5 actually is. And so now we get down to the trickle down of it, because there's a lot of other fallout that's associated with this that I've been seeing on social media. Now we got the conversation that's affiliated with age gap dating because of this situation right here with the difference in age between Shannon Sharpe and this lady, Guniza, whatever her name is, the OnlyFans lady. So a lot of people caught in the conversation about the age of it and saying the men are justifying it, and because there's a difference between what's legal and what's right. Got it. She's age legal. She's a legal adult. Now, when we start talking about what's right, that's a moral code thing by whoever is observing what's right. And so you could be on either side of the fence. Well, the fence that I've been seeing being straddled is men that like younger women who are defending Shannon. There's nothing wrong with that. I understand that that's part of the conversation if they're going to argue what's legal. Then you got the men that are divided that are arguing what's right, and they think that Shannon needs to do better, as he's almost 60 years old and needs to be in an age bracket that has a lot more maturity. Now you can go back and forth all day about why is what advantages are there for dating younger, or dating, within your age or maturity bracket rather, because the bracket gets very, very wide at some point. Because if he was dating someone 30 years younger than him or 20 years younger than him, then the perception of it would change. But I don't want to talk about that specifically. It's all this nuanced conversation that comes with it. At some point, we have to start calling this a mental illness. Yep. Because you can't have this many different examples of Black men being penalized or held accountable, in the legal system or even in not even the legal system, just on social media and public media, because it's so hard to get your reputation back if you fry it over the wrong cooch. Yes, the wrong cooch. Like, at some point, this behavior is going to set everything back. Like, the stigma associated with Black men and being over-sexualized has existed since the beginning of time. Like, even in the most recent, annals of history that we can think about, everybody remember that movie, the first movie, The Birth of a Nation? And they were talking about, they had the white people painted in blackface, simulating being Black men and beasts and everything else. And then talking about how over-sexualized we were and how we come in front of all the white women and everything. And then you get this. Then you get King Kong, which was a representation of a Black man, trying to get a white woman and going against all the other elements in the environment, whether it be planes and trains and guns and bears, whatever, didn't matter. Then we've seen this repeat so many times. We saw how Bill Cosby got handled, and we've seen R. Kelly and how he got handled. There's just countless examples of this over and over again, right? And today I sat there for a second, and since it's repeating itself, we got more information now. It's more resources. We have a better grip on history. We're watching things happen in real time. So let's just take a leap and then, just make a real assessment out of this stuff, right? I'm going to go out and say on the limb that Shannon Sharpe just set Black men back. Yep, he just set Black men back 50 years. And here's the thing why I'm saying that. Because I gave you all of those little examples of what took place. And then when you look at just in recent history, when it comes down to the manosphere, however you feel about it, Kevin Samuels rises to popularity and his ghost is still hunting the internet right now and still proven to be true for the larger majority of it. Like, whether you want to agree with his content or not, that's not the point. It's the impact is what I'm talking about. Something that pushes us forward, okay? And no point in time have all Black men agreed on any particular topic, and whether it be personality driven or whatever. So just take out that part. Just deal with the impact. I just want to talk about the impact. And the impact is only going to be as valid as the association with the behavior, just like when Bill Cosby got caught up in his situation, people separated, Bill Cosby's character from the Cosby Show character, and they cool with Cliff Huxtable, but not cool with Bill Cosby. Just listen to what I'm saying. People are cool with R. Kelly's music, but not R. Kelly. And then they'll even weigh it out because R. Kelly's music had a target audience of young women, from what he intended to do. People pick and choose on these things. When it comes down to clergymen in the church, they've been documented as being sexual deviants, down low, abusive, everything that you can think of that comes along with this stuff. So there ain't that very many positions that Black men could be in outside of entertainment, being an athlete, in front of a congregation at church. Yeah, you could be leaders in the schoolhouse and all that stuff. We're talking about high visibility, high impact positions, for influence. Maybe not necessarily change, but fame, popularity, bringing attention to certain topics and all of that, right? Developing a platform where when you say something, people can trust that it's coming from a healthy place and it's well-meaning. That's how people, relate to where they want to trust their information from. And then, not to mention, we watch Shannon navigate the NFL and become a Hall of Famer. We don't even need to talk about, like his career, but like you can't talk about top 5 tight ends as far as players in the position and not mention Shannon Sharpe's name. You watched him use his personality in the media in a way that he looked natural, like he's been doing this all his life. We watched him on what was it, FS1, when he had the show with Skip Bayless. We watched that point of friction that he had where Skip was basically being, disagreeable and difficult, making Shannon take, a different approach because he got offended. He left the show. Everybody said, Skip, whatever you're doing, it ain't going to work without Shannon. And as predicted, and his support base got behind what Shannon was doing on his own platform when he started Club Shay Shay. And then he got Nightcap with Ocho, and everything he's put his face in front of is done very, very well because he established his brand and his credibility. And the floor is open. There's endless opportunities. People are starting to come to him, in his lane, get behind what he's doing because they saw how he was getting handled, on FS1. Then he got ESPN back in the picture. Big deals lined up for his podcast. I ain't never heard of nobody getting $100 million for a podcast, and just thinking about how much further his influence and impact could go. He's getting ready to do the Hall of Fame speech for his brother this August. And there's just nothing that he could do that wouldn't work. He just couldn't miss. But he did this time. Now you got a tight end fumbling after he's no longer playing the position. So, and then we also got, let me pull this up on the screen. Shout out to Cash Trim. Don't forget, the Michelle lady filed in 2023 and the incident that FS1 paid an undisclosed settlement, all was hidden until Miss 20 exposed him. Bad business. Yeah. See, all of these things are now, this is the other side of the coin. See, I started off, I gave you all of his accolades that we're all familiar with. But now we're not talking about those things anymore because of his conduct and his behavior. Now we're talking about what's been lost at this point. We're talking about the way that people navigate the spotlight. And we got to put all of this stuff in context because ultimately, at some point, it's already part of our conversation, and that's why it's important. Like, some people can probably watch this and say, man, I don't really keep up with the news like that. But there's a lesson in these behaviors, okay? Like, we're watching real live action case studies of people and how they function and manage their emotional discipline and their sexual discipline. And it's all in response to something else, It is. It's a deep neglect, probably some people that's been abused. When we see that cycle happen currently, with Kanye, and I hadn't even gotten into that yet. That's a whole nother discussion in itself because that's crazy with him. But this is even crazier to me. This is why I say it set black men back. It's because when you sit up here looking at probably more money than you made playing in just 1 or 2 deals, just because of you being yourself and being in front of the camera. You can't, you chose to be too much of yourself. And you have to change the way that you move. You still can't move around like you've been doing. Like we saw a snippet of it with Shaq and Angel Reese, and people thought that was cringe, and it was, but now here we are with, yet again, after black men in general have started to gain some momentum in conversations pertaining to relationships, being the head of household, being reestablished, like just fixing the character issues and the representation. Now we get somebody to go do something that's in the sexually undisciplined behavior category. I keep saying it. If people are separated by behavior, well, which behaviors? Well, men and women would only be in conflict if they had a common activity. And generally speaking, men and women are in cooperation or conflict with one another based on sexual attraction. You either got kids or you don't, or you're trying to make some kids. Okay. Then if you take all the women out of the situation, what separates men from one another? And yet again, it'll be sexual discipline and emotional discipline. Some men have different preferences of the women that they're attracted to, or in some cases, the men. And what goes along with that attraction is a set of behaviors. There are some men out there that will never do what Shannon did, ever. And there are some men out there that'll never do what Kanye West did. And it's just it. Some people are more prone to that behavior than others. And that's tied directly to the morals and principles and the safety in which that they were raised. Because every human has a profile. Every human has a profile. If, case in point, Deion Sanders was on record saying he likes to get his defensive players on the football field from single mother homes because they're angrier men. He likes the offensive guys because they're generally raised in two-parent homes. There was a stat that was floating around during the Super Bowl said there's never been a quarterback from a single mother home that was in the Super Bowl, And then as you hear Deion talk more and more about this stuff, he knows the profile of the people that he needs, the personnel he needs to make his offensive strategy and defensive strategies work. And everybody has to fit some kind of profile, and something like people don't like to be stereotyped, but unfortunately you are, because you do everything in your power to remain classy, to remain, balanced. So nobody gets you confused with the wrong person. You conduct yourself a certain type of way to keep people out of the way so they don't confuse you and lump you into anything. Everyone has a profile. When you start looking at the mistakes that men make and the stuff that they apologize for, it lets you know that they are aligned with what they align with. So like the men that only see Shannon Sharpe as just an older man that's dealing with younger women just because he can, cool, whatever. However, what comes with that is that most of y'all look like you're in the young girls. Most of y'all are probably tricks just like him because he was a trick in this situation. No matter how you slice it. If you're spending money for feminine attention, you're a trick. I don't really care. I understand that there's a limited pool of people that you can access, based on what you're doing, because you just can't walk into any place and just pick somebody out that you want, And when you get down into it, then the next thing they bring up is race. Okay. We can discuss Bill Belichick. I saw somebody bring him up. Yeah, he's 72 and he got a young woman, but you know what he ain't doing? He ain't getting online talking about he gonna have Meg Thee Stallion stretched out 2:45. He ain't doing that. He ain't online lusting over IG models and OnlyFans models. He's not doing that. So, but Shannon Sharpe is and has. So he's made his preferences. No, he's brought the barbershop conversation, which is cool in terms of promoting, and attracting attention to your brand. But even still on camera, there's certain things that you just shouldn't say. It's not in your best interest. Just because you can say them, because you have freedom of speech, does not mean that you are free from criticism. Okay? That's what I'm saying. I cuss just like the rest of y'all, but I'm not going to cuss on a profuse basis. You know what I'm saying? When I'm giving you what I think is going on, in my opinion, because I want it to be received in the widest capacity possible. Now we talking one-on-one and I'm on somebody else's platform, I probably run down through there. You know what I'm saying? But for this particular message, because I care about what I'm saying, and I care that you guys hear and absorb what I'm trying to tell you. If you look at the main weapon that takes black men out and it's cheap and it's cost effective, it's a lie. Nothing is more impactful than a lie. Because even if it's a lie and you prove that it's a lie, you still got to live the rest of your life defeating the lie or not acknowledging it at all. So listen to what I'm saying now. The lie is the most effective. A woman can make false sexual allegations. She can make, and I always say this, I believe women are more dangerous to men than the police. Okay. I don't care what nobody's saying until you get married. And even that's subjective, depending on your vetting criteria. If you have poor vetting criteria, you're going to deal with more dangerous women than you would deal with the police. One is a faster avenue to the other, you know. So you out there, you being single, and you well outside your age bracket, your maturity bracket, your risk changes with that. Your risk changes with that. So the lie is very, very effective to really derail your brand and defame your reputation and everything that you earn. Then the next part that's even worse is the truth. The truth about what you did is always going to be like a nuclear bomb. You know, there's very few people that can survive the truth depending on the lane that they're in. So when you look at the difference in impact, you still lose every way. Then you just write yourself out of opportunities that you would never have gotten or had to deal with had you made a better decision with your meat. Like what you're watching with Shannon is what it looks like when a rich man thinks with his dick. Yep. This is what thinking with your meat gets you. You can have all the money in the world, but if you have no sexual discipline, you will not be able to retain what you've earned. It is all subject to being dismantled very quickly. And that is the main thing that a man has to have is sexual discipline so it can lessen his exploitability. You put yourself in a very vulnerable position, period. No matter how you slice it, the more wealth and attention and fame and popularity you get, the less trustworthy people you have around you. Because you don't know everybody's agenda when they wake up in the morning. You don't know how long they've been plotting. You don't know how long this lady been setting him up. You don't know who she been hired by. You don't know anything. And think about it. Most men that's got a decent looking wife got a better looking woman than the one Shannon just wasted so much time and money on with this situation. This is, far more impactful than what we're really discussing, because everybody wants to talk about whether it was legal or it was right. I'm talking about what does it represent, because we're watching the single version of this guy, right? Then there's married men that have managed to avoid negative publicity because they're married. And two names come to mind for me is Samuel L. Jackson and Denzel Washington. You don't hear their names called up at nothing. Those men just work and they make films and then they raise their families. You see Denzel and Pauletta Washington's children, performing and doing whatever they want to do, you know what I'm saying, and making it happen. And they don't talk down about anybody, which goes back to a point right here. Cass, you spitting tonight. Shannon is arrogant. He assumed he was running the show and got burned by a menace. Yep, he's had a lot of commentary that could be used against him. Just like I opened up this live cast with D.L. Hughley's take on his feud with them, and all of that was coming after that Cat Williams interview, and then all the comedians was coming on. He had everybody going back and forth, and D.L. Hughley said it looks messy. And this is the type of behavior you get when you got a man that's been overmothered, because overmothered men don't behave like masculine men. They might be entertaining, but that's where your minstrel show comes in. That's why, like, if you look at most of your entertainers and your athletes, most of these guys are raised by women for the large majority of them. And that's not a shot. That is part of the profile. Like I said before, everyone has a profile. People that's raised in two-parent homes do not function the same way as folks that's raised in single-parent homes. The people that's going to disagree with what I'm saying are not raised in two-parent homes. That's why they disagree, because you don't have the other experience to tell me what's going on. Most of the people that's going to disagree, they're going to be trying to argue the exception. And then the next thing they're going to say, and I already know the answer to this too, you're going to say both households can produce the same type of person. You're absolutely right. But which one produces it the most? Which one produces it the most? So ultimately, you're not asking enough critical questions so you can avoid these circular, facetious, exceptional arguments that do not disprove the majority. So accept what I'm saying and then apply it and start looking around, because everybody has a profile. And if you don't want to do it, it's because you fit the profile too. So now all of this sexually pervasive behavior has opened up yet another dialogue about how women feel impacted by this. Because I saw a whole bunch of people talking about Tracee Ellis Ross and her opinion about dating younger men. I didn't hear her say she didn't specify an age. She just said younger. She's 52. So most men that she's going to get attention from that will be interested in a relationship with her won't be her age. They will be younger, because even older men don't want women in their same age bracket. So I saw that cooking, and I didn't really have no opinion about it because I'm not in her head. I'm not interested in, no other woman but my wife, and so you just let that cook, because that's just TV talk and the sound bites. But when this situation jumped off with Shannon, I saw like the same men that was trying to crucify Tracee Ellis Ross for whatever her choices are. They jumped out the boat and went and tried to swim and rescue Shannon from his self-inflicted decision making. No, you don't get to do both. You don't get to do both, man. Not without having it brought to the discussion. I don't see the point, because what Tracee was doing doesn't impact men. It does not misrepresent men. It has no impact. But then I see the same men that are saying, well, if Tracee did it, how come Shannon can't do it? I see that. But guess what, fellas? We are not graded based on the accountability of women. So we shouldn't even be paying them any attention. It's just like when Black people try to compare themselves to other ethnic groups. Stop comparing us to other people. Focus on yourself. That is rule number one. Rule number one. Let me pull that up just so we can stay on, stay in the same energy, so you can understand why I feel the way I feel. Men, focus on men. Personal accountability standards amongst reasonable men without degrading women to improve our society. Fellas, if you only focused on the women that respect you, a lot of these other women that you have disagreements with will go away. They would, because if you look at it like politics, right? Anytime there's politics like the recent elections that we just had, you see Black people and white people divided, and you see definitely, the Mexican community too, because, they all different variables determine how the vote goes and the outcomes and stuff. But what you never see when there's political unrest? I never see Asians protesting, talking about what they want from the government and what the government needs to do. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I'm saying that I don't see it. And I'm 46 years old, and I have yet to see a large protest with Hasidic Jews standing out in front of the White House protesting that they want some sort of provision. I've never seen it. Doesn't mean it doesn't happen, but I'm just saying that I've never seen it. And they still get what they want. You can ignore women the same way the government ignores you. You can give your attention to the women that respect you without disrespecting women. You really can. And that will keep you out of conversations that have nothing to do with you. You can't expect women and men to have the same standard of accountability because they got different value systems. So we're not going to be able to push the conversation about coming together and all of this other stuff when, number one, you're not even dealing with the issues in your own families. So you're dealing with the issues outside of it, and your pet peeves, and then your policies are fucked up in your own households. Because the other thing that came with this situation dealing with Shannon is the stigma of the over-sexualized Black man that fits every woman's worst nightmare about a man. Shannon behavior looks like something that a lot of Black women have seen. Now, I'm only saying Black women because I can't speak for nothing else. You know what I'm saying? I can't even speak for Black women. I can only speak from what I've observed from people that I've coached and given some form of counsel or some form of guidance. I would say out of 10 Black women that I've talked to, 9 of them have been molested or sexually assaulted in some kind of way. And the majority of the time it was a family member. So this is very triggering for a lot of Black women. I've gotten multiple phone calls about this since this situation's happened, and they have shared that this is what I complain about when I talk about Black men. This behavior right here is very triggering because I was assaulted by an uncle or a brother in some cases, or an in-law or a cousin. This behavior from a man that's almost his age is commonplace for a lot of Black women as far as their background. So that's why, like, the women are saying he looks like a creep. He looks like this. He's reminding them of something. Now, I know somebody's gonna say, well, they need to go heal because they don't have nothing to do with them. That's not the point. The point is that it is representative of a behavior that is tied to Black men. And our standard for accountability for Black men has to be higher than the women in our own community. And when I say community, I mean like in the sexually disciplined community, this is not even a conversation. The people over in the sexually undisciplined community, y'all have this to deal with. This is by behavior alone. That's why this stuff transcends race. I've seen people try to argue me down when I tell them, I said, sexual discipline is more important than obesity and racism. And it's more important than police brutality. So, because this is where your families are set off on a course, because the boys get abused as well as the girls. And a lot of them have a creepy person in their family that gets away with this level of sexual discipline in a risky way, and you have no idea the existential impacts, because that's why most women can relate to being sexually assaulted in some kind of way, SA'd, or whatever terminology they want to use now, because I don't want to risk any type of bans. But come on, like Cash is, hey, Shannon reminds me of my daddy. Yes, because you know what I mean. Come on, man. Yep. Come on now. We don't know why. I don't know why they even trying to, compare the two. Because there's a lawsuit associated with Shannon's choices. And some fumbled financial opportunities. Tracy just says she like younger men. I don't even understand why y'all would even compare the two. But that's another point, though. That goes to the point of the level of deflection that's associated with this. You wouldn't let your children get away with the excuses that you guys are making. If your children told you the same thing, if you told them before they went to school today, hey, do the right thing, don't get on the teacher's bad side. And if you got some people trying to peer pressure you into doing something, you call me, and then you let the teacher know. Don't go with the crowd and do the same dumb thing they're gonna do. You get a phone call later on, and your kid is in trouble because the principal's calling you. So you go to the school and you ask the kid what happened, and they said they followed the crowd. And you're gonna say, didn't I tell you not to do that? And then if that kid, now you got to the point you about to make a decision right here. Because that kid's gonna say this right here. I don't know. When you ask them what were they doing. But imagine if that kid looked you dead in your eye and said, well, you didn't say anything about the other kids that did what I did. What are you going to say? You're going to say, because I'm responsible for you and those children don't belong to me. That's what you're going to communicate, but you might slap your kid's lips off. You know what I'm saying? Because you're going to find that to be very disrespectful. That's the point. If you're talking to somebody and you're going to automatically deflect to what the women are doing, you got the accountability of a woman. Deal with it in a man's situation. Because I guarantee you, your big old 50-year-old asses, they're like young 19 to 18-year-old women, you would have a problem if you ended up having a son-in-law that was your age. You would have a problem with that. You would have a problem if a man your age made you a grandfather. You would, especially if that man looked like Shannon. So in this situation, he put himself in all types of the center of multiple conversations. And I want to deal with the behavior of it. You know, like, see, like this is what it looked like when you got men around. They tell you don't follow the crowd. Don't follow the crowd. Hang on a second. Let me go through some of these comments. I appreciate y'all chiming in. Jessica says, no one understands life under the age of 25. It's proven they don't have a fully developed frontal lobe. Just because they do things that seem scheming, it's really just overly irrational behavior based on emotions for men and women. Now, someone older can tell them to do that mess, but they didn't come up with it on their own after 2 years. That is true. I agree with that, because we really just come outside winging it. You really have to be told what to do for a long period of your life. You can have a passion, but it takes somebody telling you how to organize your thoughts so you don't overcommit to your passion instead of what you have to do. You have to separate what you want to do from what you got to do. That's what life is in general. And it takes a while to really prioritize that sacrifice and, you know, make the best decision possible with any given moment. So let's see, Cass on fire there. I think women do and men women and men a disservice by claiming women under 25 are innocent or don't understand. Like, you are absolutely right. People try to act like they wasn't, you know what I'm saying, aware of what type of nonsense they was able to plot. We ain't saying about not knowing what you're doing. We're talking about the ability and capacity to get a plan together, no matter if it's good or bad, to go get something that you want. You know how to manipulate a situation. When you don't have no money, all you doing is manipulate. All you doing is guilt tripping people and trying to convince them that they need to do something for you. And all you got is your emotions. It's just like a kid, right? When they're born, until they can talk, they use hand signals. They hungry, you know, like they squeeze, like they got a bottle, whatever. You know what I'm saying, or whatever. They cry, they whine, they pout. Then when they get a little bit more verbal, they start learning the cute words, and then they learn how to lie. And early on, it's cute until it's not cute. And then the next thing you're doing is helping them use their words the best way so they don't hurt other people's feelings, because all you know is bluntness. All you know is the truth. And then later on, when they figure out how to use all of these words, now they have to learn how to use the words to explain their emotions. And emotions are very tricky. You know, a lot of us got family members that you can't talk to because they can't hear your words without making it about them, even if it's an important subject. So human beings are very complex in terms of how we interpret and translate and communicate what we're saying until it's received as effective communication. Notice I use all those different steps because sometimes we're just talking and some people are just responding and they're just reacting. Nothing's being learned. Nothing's being absorbed properly and being transmuted into better decision making. So, yeah, a lot of people just run around here being manipulative. Yep. So, and shout out to my man Levi. Hey, yeah, I'm just sharing what I'm knowing, man. That's it. This is the way I see it. This is how I interpret things, and outcomes reflected. So we all have the same capacity. We just have to be willing to be taught. And I think that's why I came up with like rule number 3. Decentralized leadership requires knowing when to lead and when to follow. You must avoid misrepresenting fellow men. Although we are not perfect, we must have redeeming efforts. Okay. Shannon made a mistake. We know he ain't perfect. He's made the same mistake a couple of times. So that's part of his pattern, his behavioral pattern. Okay. No matter how you look at it, you don't have to be in the FBI to target people based on their pattern of behavior. Like earlier, I mentioned Kanye West, and we know what he's had going on as a reason. For those that don't know, he's had an incestuous relationship with his cousin that he feels guilty about because he's doing life. And he attributes him doing life to his abuse of his cousin through oral sex because he found his mama's nudie magazines and he found his daddy's, but he chose his mama's magazines. Okay, so I don't know all the complete. I couldn't even explain it other than that. But his situation would be different if he had came out said that he had been molested, I guess you could say. And if he made it about, but he made it about what he did to his cousin. And his mama failed him in that respect because she took him away from his father and moved away. My understanding, he had a babysitter that used to assault him too, but it was also his mom's lesbian lover. So everything still comes back to rule number 5, because the behaviors that your children absorb in their environment are going to be how they make decisions with the opposite sex, or maybe with the same sex, or maybe with both at the same time. It's a lot of conflicted people that's making moves off the way that they was raised. Because when you go outside, the way that you solve your problems every day is reflective of the way that you were raised until you decide that you want to move from an undisciplined mindset to a disciplined mindset, because it's only 2 mindsets. It's only 2. So, but when it comes down to what men should be doing when they have a high visibility position, we look at Shannon Sharpe yet again. And this is about legacy and equity. Living a life of service towards your community and others. You must be credible and capable of both mentoring and being mentored. You must be receptive and coachable. To be successful, you have to be coachable. You have to be teachable. You have to be correctable. All of those different elements that go into, okay, I can work with this person. When you start establishing negative patterns, it wipes out all of this, all of it. It shows you not focused on yourself, like rule number 1. And rule number 3 is about, knowing when to lead and when to follow. Nobody's going to trust you to lead if you can't keep your meat in your pants and out the wrong women. Okay. Like in the tie, like I like to tie stuff that we see in one person based on behavior into some other tangible example that we could talk about. So like in the book, Accountable Masculinity, identifying the disciplined man, and you go cop that, you know what I'm saying? The links are in the description. There's a part in here where I write about Malcolm X. in this book, I write about Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, General Petraeus, Bill Clinton, and John F. Kennedy. All men in significant positions of visibility and status. They all have the same situation in common except Malcolm. All of them got caught up in some sort of sexual allegations or inappropriate sexual behavior. And we know about Bill Clinton and Monica Lewinsky. For those of you that don't know about General Petraeus, he was a top lead post-CIA after a glorious career in the military. He got caught up with his secretary. JFK was caught up with Marilyn Monroe, and Martin Luther King was caught up with Joan Baez and quite a few other situations that was documented by the FBI. Whether you want to get into whether it's true or not and all of that, that's not the point. We're talking about the fact that it was reported, okay? So off of it being reported, it doesn't matter if it's true, it's out there. It's like, hell, people swear by the Willie Lynch letter, but that's been proven to be a hoax over and over again. But the fact that it's out there, now we have something to pivot off of and to talk about. But the only reason Malcolm didn't get caught up in this situation is because he kept his meat clean. His wife brought situations to him that women were within the NOI were starting to turn up pregnant, and they all came back to the fact that Honorable Elijah Muhammad was impregnating young girls. Caused Malcolm to put some distance in between it, and that destroyed the visibility, because Malcolm left with the Mecca, came back, and that's right before he was assassinated. So promiscuous behavior weakens your exterior. It makes you vulnerable to manipulation. There's nothing that can come from it. Like, seriously, at this point, I understand why it was fun when we was younger, but I can't separate the danger from it. I can't see it. I can't see it being worth the risk, especially when everybody sees you every day doing the same thing. It's not even worth it if you're not famous or not visible or not popular. There's nothing good that can come from it. They got new diseases. People out here having sex with X-Men. You know what I'm saying? Like, and for the people that like saying it ain't tricking if you got it, it's still tricking. Tricking is toxic. I understand why some men have to get contact with a woman like that if they are in a high visibility, high demand type of situation, and they hire, escorts that they got to sign NDAs with, and they handle it on a professional level. I get it. I'm not saying that there's no place for it. I'm talking to people that are paying attention to this, and they got young men. And they don't know what to say to them. You can show them this video. And then you can give the context you need to give, because you know the behaviors of your own children. Because the older adults, a lot of them washed up and they just think I'm lying anyway. So my content is meant for the person that is affected by it in a positive or negative way. But pay attention to the people that react in a negative way. It tells you a lot about them, So when we start really looking at, well, what separates us from each other? Every woman isn't promiscuous. Every man isn't promiscuous. So you put those people over there. And if you put them over there, you watch the way that they make decisions without you being involved and how they function, you will say, I never would have done that. I never would have tried to solve that problem that way. And I'm talking about, they come down to simple stuff. And then let's just say you still can't see it. Look at their home structures. Look at the kids they raise. How do the kids behave? Have we not seen generations of women twerking with each other online? I mean, what else do we need? So when you think about it, it's just certain things that let you know that there's an absence of a man in the house with some sexual discipline, because people behave differently when they can be held to accountability by the right type of authority. But you cannot have any authority over anyone else if you do not have authority of what's in your pants. And knowing that you don't have authority over what's in other people's pants. So it don't matter how much money you spend. You can never buy the human being. You can buy an opportunity. You can purchase, you can rent a space. You can get in line, but you don't own that person. And when you start thinking about the way people function, there's a high degree of entitlement that's affiliated with this type of behavior. And a lot of these people, they will get upset at you for having a different opinion because it makes them feel judged. And that's just them being convicted by their own emotions and their own behavior. They got nothing to do with you. So when you get caught up in situations like this, it alienates your character all the way out. Because like now, the people that you would have been attracted to are no longer attracted to you. They don't support what you got going on. They don't want anything to do with you because you remind them of that creepy uncle that they just finally got over or found a way to reconcile it. And then here you come, represented with your behavior. And then now you bring everybody into question about what they was on last year. Your man that had that was sitting courtside with you. Now they bringing that back up. You start getting your sexuality question because you're too sexual. Like these dudes, like that fall in the YN category, they usually, man, we've seen them be conflicted sexually, openly, because something's got to be off up here for you to be willing to jeopardize your freedom and do 5 decades behind bars with a bunch of dudes. At some point, the question is legit. Do you have a husband in there? Or do you want a husband in there? I don't know another way to say it, man, to make it make sense. But I believe poor sexual discipline is a mental illness. And I know somebody say, well, you're not qualified to diagnose nobody. Like, no, I don't have to. I don't have to be if y'all gonna let Cheyenne Bryant call herself a doctor. You letting Dr. Umar running around with, I mean, even though his degree is legit, you know, you got to have something that's not firing right to talk down on women, pay for access to them, knowing that they're not all the way right themselves, and then act shocked like you're the victim when they do something crazy. You either have the accountability of a woman or the accountability of a man. But there's a degree of accountability. But the accountability that you're going to get judged by is going to have something to do with the legal system, public perception, and at the bank. Yep. There's a lot of people that's looking for soft targets. And the fact that he highlighted that Tony Buzbee was running a shakedown operation, which is the same attorney that was currently going after Diddy, and he went after Jay-Z and lost. He's profiling people based on their sexual appetite. Predator's gonna predator, bro. So you got to think about that. In every movie that we watch that holds our attention, at some point, there's a romantic relationship that goes left, and it pivots off of how people react to that relationship with that particular woman. And that sexual discipline piece is going to be used to exploit the opportunity to turn the plot and to push the conversation forward and to maintain the interest of the viewer. You've seen it in Scarface when Tony had one rule for Manolo: don't sleep with my sister. And what happened? What did Tony do? Slept with his sister. What happened with Manolo? All right, then. He sprayed the place up. Remember, for those of you that watch Sons of Anarchy, Gemma, the mother of the club. Now we saw everything that she was involved in. Everything the club had to deal with pivoted off of what Jimmy was doing. She turned Jimmy into a simp. Hell, the reason she was with Clay, because her and Clay conspired to off Jax Teller's dad. All behind that. Remember when that for those of you that watch, because I'm a big fan of the show, remember that part where they were dealing with the Aryan folks, and Jimmy got essayed, and then she blamed it on the Asian motorcycle or the triad guys, and it caused a huge war because that pivoted off somebody being in the wrong cooch. Come on, when she got with Jimmy, she got all of the working girls sprayed up at Diosa. All of that pivoted off of Jimmy being with the wrong situation because she was cheating on Clay. So at some point, men got to make better decisions around the women that they choose to affiliate themselves with, because there's there's usually nothing that happens to the woman that she can't recover from. If anything, she's gonna benefit from it. Good women benefit from attention in general. It don't even have to be good or bad attention, it's still attention. Because as we saw recently, Brittany Renner was sitting courtside with Kevin Gates, and she a whole Muslim now. The only like I ain't got no problem with people trying to improve themselves. And as far as I've seen, the one that's improved themselves and got out the way and ain't said nothing to nobody has been Black China. Black China got out the way, pulled them butt shots out, got saved, got in the church, and she kind of just disappeared after she got her OnlyFans money. And you can't even hate on that, because what good will it do you anyway? Change for the better. And when you're in a position to impact others, don't do it in a negative way. You don't owe anybody anything. We're just asking. You don't have to do it in a negative way, because what you're watching is all of the cliche terms that you like to use, you know what I'm saying, in conspiracy discussion. Shannon Sharpe is in the middle of a humiliation ritual right now. And he did it to himself. Shannon put himself in that situation. Didn't nobody tell him to go get with that chick? He did that. He ain't no victim. We tell the women all the time, you picked him. Well, he picked her. That's it. Like, pay attention to the people that's going to apologize for it. That's all I'm saying. Like, how many times can we keep having a conversation where you're trying to apologize for bad sexual choices? You did it for Cosby. You did it for R. Kelly. And now Shannon Sharpe is it. And meanwhile, when Kevin Samuels was talking about the same things in so many ways, in his own way, it was a bunch of men saying he was gay. And it's weird. It's weird how the people that tell you how to posture yourself to get your best outcomes and to protect yourself, you call them, you know, like slanderous terminology. But then those same group of people will rally to support someone that made a poor choice in self-serving behavior, made a poor self-righteous decision and not a righteous decision, and they get the most support. You know, I saw something where the women in the Black community are affiliated with supporting Ratchet by and large than any other ethnic demographic when it comes to expression, dance, whatever, fashion, no matter how raunchy it can be. But men over here on the same side of that probably pair very well with those women in terms of behavior, they will argue to the ends of the earth to defend the practice of poor sexual discipline. And when you think about it, all those dudes are mostly raised by women or promiscuous fathers or weak fathers for the most part, because nothing else would okay that type of weak behavior other than the absence of a father. I understand And some women say, yeah, that's the main thing. But like, you got to understand what you're arguing for when you argue against something, or what you're arguing against when you argue for something. So if you're going to argue that the absent father is the problem, you're also saying that you're incapable of raising a sexually responsible adult as a woman, because you can't have it both ways. You want all of the credit. You want all of the credit when it goes right. And you want none of the blame when it goes bad, when you're responsible for that too. Because make no bones about it, because I'm not going to leave women out of the discussion, okay? Men like Shannon Sharpe are raised by women. Women created him. That behavior, not Shannon specifically, because I don't know his background, but that behavior profile is that hypersexualized male that comes from being raised by women. Because your dad gonna tell you, if you get her pregnant, you're gonna have to go take care of her. You can't do it in my house. No, because that's why I could tell they've been raised in a single parent structure with a lot of freedom, a lot of access, a lot of room to make a lot of bad decisions. They make a lot of bad decisions, man. And this is what it looks like when you think with your meat. So women raise men and have sex with men, single mothers specifically, attract these types of men, because the cycle is vicious, because most of the times they were raised by mothers that had men like that in the house having access to them. All of this is happening on one side of the behavior far more than it happens on the single parent side more than it happens on the two parent side. And I'll go to bat about that. Because if you say that all of the worst things that can happen to you as a man come from men that's been raised in a single parent home, then you can't say it's not also true when it comes down to decision making, when it comes down to women. You can't have it both ways. So, ladies, I understand that you might be offended and triggered by the way Shannon has conducted himself, but you got to have a conversation with the rest of your clique and the rest of the ratchet community that raises men that behave that way. And you need to talk to your mothers about why were they attracted to men like Shannon? And why have they protected their pedophile brothers that you know is an uncle, if they exist? You got to add, like, you got to get pushed from both sides on this. Because the other side of what I brought up when I mentioned Kanye was the fact that there are women that are abusing boys that make hypersexual men like this too. So you got the mothers that's not protecting them, and then they being put around other women that abuse them. Because for the longest time, the conversation about abuse to children and molestation and SA is left men out of the mix, other than just being the aggressor. But you can't have it both ways. So take credit for this too. This is your fault as well. Because plenty of you got some people in your family that fit this behavior. You do. And as much as you want to play around about it or try to duck and deflect, I'm not going to let you do that. Because until it starts getting addressed, it ain't going to matter until it happened to you. It ain't going to matter until you got a son that goes to school, goes to a party, big time athlete, and somebody accuses him of something that he didn't do. And he can't fight his way out of it because of the perception being so strong. Because like it or not, and this is the part why I say this behavior has set black men back so far. It's because you know the risk. Think about it just in history, how many whole communities have been burned down with the use of government lethal aid. Tulsa was burned down off of a lie. Emmett Till was beat up, and we know how he ended up, you know what I'm saying, off of a lie. His own black mama didn't believe it was that big of a deal what was going on in the South. Because if she was living in Chicago, she said that didn't have anything to do with what was going on Mississippi didn't have anything to do with Chicago until a woman that told a lie ended up having that same lie kill her son. Come on, man. Like the movie Rosewood started from a lie from a white woman. This, like, it doesn't even have to happen. It doesn't have to happen at all. But the lie is very powerful. But the biggest lie of it all is not when they lie on you, because you can't expect them to be on the same moral code. You can't expect a woman to have the same accountability as a man. The biggest lie is the one you tell yourselves, because you're emotionally undisciplined. So when you're arguing about how slavery produced all these hypersexual men, stop it, because you got control over that. Are you saying that you can't outsmart your own dick? Is that what you're saying? You realize how dumb you look when you're arguing for something that doesn't make sense, that only brings you in proximity to more failure? How many more men got to take the same L for this conversation to really turn the corner and push us in a progressive way, instead of this same conversation being used to chastise us and take us back? Because this is a massive reset. And if we don't treat it as such, yeah, you can downplay it all you want to. It just depends on where you at. But the people that don't think it's a big deal, they probably not sexually disciplined anyway. And they're liabilities, because, hey, look, sexually undisciplined men are the most untrustworthy men. They'll do anything for some coochie. Sexually undisciplined women are the least trustworthy women. They can't even protect their own children. Just like that lady, what her name was, Tatiana, up in Detroit, who kids allegedly froze to death and then came back and said he died of carbon monoxide poisoning. And nobody wanted to believe him right away. The men would sit back saying, yeah, right, we'll wait for the police report. That's how low women's accountability is when it comes to telling the truth and being honest. We got to wait for the police report. But with men, we don't get that benefit of the doubt. So that's why you can't have the accountability of a woman as a man. You can't sit back and say, well, look what she did. That's dumb. That's dumb. That's why it was so stupid to watch y'all bring up Tracy Ellis Ross in comparison to Shannon Sharpe. Who cares what they do? The only women you need to be paying attention to is the ones that respect you. That nobody owes us anything, man. You've been in this world alone. Don't start whining about it now. Live up to it, own it, and protect your space, man. And the best way you can protect your space is find the most trustworthy spaces possible. And tricking ain't gonna get you the most trustworthy spaces. So, man, with that being said, I appreciate the way you guys have tuned in and contribute to the conversation. I hope you enjoyed this. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. And for matter of fact, let me drop the YouTube link in the channel. In the chat. I want you guys to check out the rest of the content. Like, share, and subscribe. Repost for those of you that's on Facebook. People that's on Twitch, I appreciate y'all watching too. And don't forget, go get the book, man. Accountable Masculinity, and it's about identifying the disciplined man in you. Hey, Shannon Sharpe, and you and Kanye, y'all need to go ahead and get this too. You know what I'm saying? Get some of this in your mindset training, because it's only two mindsets, man. You either disciplined or undisciplined. There's no in between. And on that note,